Check it out, Kaz. This is the missing link.
We've been waiting months for this to happen.
What a beauty.
The propulsion system of Delos 2.0 is finally taking shape. We're talking about more than just moving the boat. It's about trying new concepts, efficiency, and performance. And unlike a monohull with a single engine and prop, catamarans have two engines, one in each hull. This setup improves maneuverability, allowing for controlled turns, precise docking, and even the ability to pivot in place, all without relying on the rudder or a bow thruster. But there's a lot of considerations. Prop size, prop pitch, and placement all come into play. Shaft alignment must be dialed in with precision. Even a minor misalignment can lead to vibration and excessive wear. Every component, from the engine mounts to the taper of the shaft holding the prop in place, must be engineered to withstand the constant forces of life at sea. That's why we carefully designed the propulsion system around components we chose after lots and lots of miles at sea.
Now it's time to get to work. Ooh, I got a pretty exciting email over the weekend that the shipment from Bruttons was in customs, which means that the propeller and the Sigma drive, which connects the prop shaft to the output of the transmission and the clutch, is arriving, which is the last components I need before I can install this. So this is from Vetus. It's basically a fiberglass tube with a cutlass bearing inside of it. And the way this works is this goes in the stern tube like that. We get it centered and we get it aligned. And then we chock fast that in, just like we did with the rudders and just like we did with the exhaust.
This stage of installing the propulsion system has been a long time coming, and we're pretty stoked to finally piece it all together. Seeing the steering system, the rudders, and now the propulsion in place, it's all starting to feel very real. And the thought that, hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll be sailing this dreamboat into the open ocean, feeling your cut through the waves, powered by the wind. Well, that's the moment we're chasing here.
It's kind of a cool piece of equipment. This is called a cutlass bearing on the end of it, and it's a water lubricated bearing. So this is a 35 millimeter prop shaft, also from Vetus. This is a 35 millimeter inside diameter cutlass bearing, and the shaft sits right in there. This is constantly lubricated and cooled with water, and it should last a very long time. But basically, that cutlass bearing holds this end steady. Yeah, it is quite a tight fit.
That's what she said.
It's supposed to be very snug, and it is. I'm not gonna push it all the way in there because then I'll have to get it out later.
That's what Oscar said.
But anyway, you can imagine this goes all the way to right here. This whole assembly sits inside here. This is rotating like this. There's water inside here. This end is hooked up to the Sigma drive, which is basically the coupling that hooks it to the output of the transmission. That spins, and then it spins the prop. A few cool things about this, you see this little screw right here? So if you undo this screw, then you can leave the fiberglass tube in place. You can pull the cutlass bearing out to replace it if you ever need to. This should have a pretty long life as long as you maintain good water flow and this doesn't overheat. It should last for a long time. So there's a few considerations I need to think about. And the first one is how to correctly align this tube.
The alignment of the prop shaft and cutlass bearing are critical. Misalignment can cause premature wear of the cutlass bearing and lots of vibrations. So I want to make sure that the shaft is as straight as possible when it connects to the engine. I also need to make sure that when everything is situated, I have the required clearance between the propeller tips and the hull. This will help to avoid cavitation, and is also necessary since the Bruttons prop is an auto feathering and auto pitching prop, and the blades can rotate through 360 degrees when switching from forward to reverse. So a few extra moments making sure everything is spot on is well worth it. The first step in the install is threading and happing some temporary nylon bolts into the stern tube. These bolts will help me to position the tube at just the right angle for the propeller, making sure everything lines up exactly how it should be until the chock fast can be poured, locking everything into place.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
So I think that's a good proof of concept.
Yeah.
Remember those screws I talked about just a few minutes ago that will allow me to switch out the cutlass bearing? Well, if I cover them in chalk fast, they're no good to anyone. So I'm creating some aluminum tubes that will create a tunnel for the chalk fast to flow around, providing access to the screws after everything is poured into place.
A special box arrived all the way from the UK. Dun-dun-dun. I've been waiting for this for so long.
Show me your face.
Look at that. What a beauty. So this is the Brunton's EcoStar H6 prop, 504 millimeter or 20-inch diameter prop to fit a 35 millimeter shaft. And this particular propeller is specially tuned to take advantage of electric and hybrid drives. So that's why it's so cool. We have a very similar prop on Delos. We have the Brunton H6, and it has been an amazing propeller for us. It's been on the Delos since the beginning of the trip. It's a very cool design. So imagine that you're sailing forward. These propeller blades can face like this, and they can actually feather so that you get very little resistance when you're sailing. And when you're motoring, they flip like this for maximum power. The cool thing I like about the design is some propellers have like a gearing system in the hub here. This is just a bearing, and so it can rotate freely and it'll adjust its pitch based on RPM and the load of the propeller. And so, yeah, it's just a very cool design, very simple and incredibly robust as well. They're beautiful, huh?
So nice.
And then over here, so this is the coupling between the output of the electric motor and the clutch to the prop shaft. So this is called the Brunton's Sigma Drive, and it will allow us, it basically transmits the power from the clutch to the propeller shaft, and it handles all the vibration like that too. With this guy, we just need to get it kind of close to alignment. See how it goes like that? So it'll handle about 3 degrees of misalignment on the prop shaft in all directions. But we'll get it as close as we can. But this is the magic piece I've been waiting for to line everything up. So, and it should fit right on here, like that, right?
Yeah.
And then this bolts to this guy here.
Somebody came by and gave us some really amazing.
I know, how nice is that?
So sweet. Sweet bag too.
So this end fits to that flange right there, right? This is the missing link.
Yay!
Now it's time to get to work.
Said and done. After the excitement of finally receiving the parts we've been waiting on for ages, the real work in the propulsion system is about to happen.
So a lot happened. I've got the engine aligned and where I like it, and I use my little feeler gauges to get this clutch aligned.
These little plates I'm using here are called feeler gauges, and they're super handy for measuring the clearance between two flat plates. It might be easier if I just show you.
There's a bunch of them in here. They're all different thicknesses, and it tells you the thickness. So for example, that one is 1 millimeter thick, and that's the thickest one. Let's say you're trying to get two surfaces like this to line up. And let's say, of course these would be round rotating surfaces. Let's say that it's tweaked like that. You put the feeler gauge in and you're like, okay, it's loose here, but at this end it's tight. So now I know it's angled like that. And so you can make little adjustments and tweak it, rotate it until you have the same measurement all the way around with the finest one, and then you push them together. That's what I've been told. So
Interesting.
we'll see. Here is the clutch, and so you can see how there is, this is the flange from the clutch, and this is the cog gear, and then this is the flange towards the transmission, the gearbox. And so what I did is I slid this whole thing back. I put this gauge inside this gap here, and I measured it all the way around. And then I kind of had all the bolts, these bolts, boom, boom, boom. I had them snug but not tight.
Okay.
And then I just did little taps. It was just like a little, just tiny little taps like that. And then eventually I got it to where I was down to a pretty small gauge, like 1/4 of a mil here. And then I just tightened these bolts and it sucked the whole thing forward and it spins.
Wow.
So,
So
yeah.
what is that? What is that called then?
So that was just roughly aligning all of this stuff. I
Okay.
just want to get everything aligned because there's no sense aligning the prop shaft if the clutch isn't aligned, right? So now that is kind of where I want it, I went ahead and took this out of the box. So this is now you can see how this part fits on here, right? Put these pieces together. Okay, so this is the Sigma drive that I just took out of the box a little while earlier, and then this is the shaft brake. And so now what I'm trying to do is figure out how long we need the prop shaft. And so before I can determine the length of the prop shaft, I have to have all this stuff bolted on so I know where to measure to. And so this part has a flange like this, and then the output of the clutch has a flange, and these bolts just go on there like that. And we're just trying to get rough measurements now so I can cut the prop shaft. So I just put that on there to temporarily hold it. So that's the shaft brake. And what we need to do now is I think I want to put a tape measure in from the outside through the stern tube and measure it to right here, this flange right here.
Okay.
And if we can get that measurement, then we have to add a certain amount for the prop shaft to go into the Sigma drive. I think it says a minimum of 40 millimeters. So we'll take that measurement, we'll add 40 mil, we'll add a little bit more for extra play. I think it has to be somewhere between 40 and 60 mil. I'll have to check that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be. We'll measure that, and then once we measure that distance, then I can cut the prop shaft at that length and then see how everything lines up. And if that all goes well, then we can put the stern tube in,
Oh.
the cutlass bearing. So I was wondering if you could help me with this measurement real quick.
Okay.
So you stay here, I'll go downstairs, I'm gonna put a tape in, and you just give me the reading to the outside of this part right here, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, 760.
760?
760.
Okay, we've gone somewhere a little bit more quiet.
It was way too crazy in there with all the grinding. And this will actually be a little bit better because this shows exactly what I'm trying to explain. So working from the front to the back, here's the clutch, and here's the flange to the gearbox that I was talking about, how I align that. And then here's the Sigma drive. So this is the flange between the clutch and the Sigma drive. And then it clamps onto the propeller shaft. And so when I put that tape measure through, we were measuring this distance from the end of the stern tube right here to the very beginning of the clamp for the Sigma drive. And we got a measurement of 760 mil. So if we look at, for a 35 millimeter shaft, the shaft insertion depth, a minimum of 40 and a maximum of 60. So I would probably add 60 onto that measurement. Just, we can always cut more off if we need to, right?
Yeah.
So that brings it up to 820. 760 plus 60 is 820. I'm gonna verify all these measurements by writing them all down, trust me. And that takes us to the very end of the stern tube. And then we have to account for the line cutter, because I want to have another one of those Spurs line cutters on because it's so awesome. So we need 40, it's 32
mil wide, but we put a 4 mil spacing on each side, so we add another 40 mil onto that. And then we have the prop. So this is telling me that from the edge of the prop to here is going to be 760 plus 60 plus 40. So what is that, 860? And if that is correct, then we should end up with this spacing between the propeller and the deadwood. And
Oh yeah, because this is quite a tight space for us.
Exactly. So you notice how we had to do these cutouts for the deadwood to get good clearance. So we should have 32 mil clearance here. And so I think the next step would be to mark out, double check all these measurements, and then we cut the shaft, put it in there and just see where it sits, and then measure our clearances when the blades actually fold. Is it making sense so far?
Yeah.
I'm learning so much about this stuff. Like, I've never done anything, but I've been working with, David, who did the original design in New Zealand. And then we worked with the guys in the UK a lot at Brunton's to adjust the shaft angle and make sure all these pieces will fit. And so far it's looking pretty good. I can't wait to see how this thing spins when we get her in there.
I know.
All right, I'm gonna sanity check this with Dan.
Okay.
And then with any luck, we'll be cutting the prop shaft and put that baby in there.
Sweet.
Yeah, all right, I'm back at it.
All right, I just double checked that measurement with Dan. He got the same one we did. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this guy, do or die. So this is the boss. Here's where the edge of the prop shaft hub, top hub comes to. And then there's our cut line right there.
At the heart of any sailboat's propulsion system is the shaft. Unless, of course, you have a sail drive, but that's a different beast altogether. The shaft is a solid metal rod that connects the engine to the propeller, transferring all that power into forward or reverse motion. Seems simple, right? Well, in reality, it's not. There's a lot of crucial engineering going on here. The shaft has to be perfectly aligned to avoid unnecessary wear, and it spins at high speeds under intense torque in a corrosive environment. It passes through the hull via a shaft seal, keeping the ocean out while allowing smooth alignment and rotation. Proper lubrication and alignment are essential here.
Pretty close. I'll get that in there now, get that lined up, test it in there. I got to mark 60 mil on the shaft so I know how far back into the coupling to put it, Sigma drive. And then we'll go make some rough measurements outside and see where we sit. Ooh. Looking pretty good. That's supposed to be 40. It's like 44. That's good, because we put a little bit of green on that prop shaft just in case. This measurement is supposed to be 32, and that's 20. These were shaped by hand, so it was kind of a guess. I think we should be able to get a little bit more out there. And this one supposed to have 57. Right there is 50. God, it's looking really good. I'm gonna send a message to Brunton's and ask them about this measurement here. See if that's enough. Because the prop will never actually be like that. It's only like that when it's feathered. Because when it's spinning, it will either be like that or like that. So as long as it has clearance to pivot, but I will send them a message and just make sure. But so far this is looking really good. I'm pretty happy with it. So now I just gotta check the alignment, make sure the alignment is good. And if the alignment is good, I will adjust my screws as needed. I need to make a little cap for the end, for this end and that end. Put this plug in here and glue it to the tube. And then I'll chalk fast it up. Sweet, all right. Oh, hi.
Hi. What are you putting on now?
So yeah, I got these spacers in there which guarantee that the CV joint is 100% straight. So I've got the shaft in there where I want it. So let me get another tiny little bit of turn on these, and then I'll go show you what's going on outside. Is smoke go yet? It's so hot.
So hot in there.
Is everybody tired of us complaining about the heat yet?
What are you contemplating?
I need to move this hole.
You fitted everything yesterday and then you took everything apart. Can you talk about that? So you did like a dry fit?
Yeah, I did a fit yesterday, and then I wanted to adjust a few things. I wanted to move because I had a clearance here of 20 mil, and the design, I think on the drawing it says 32 mil. And so I wanted to move it out a little bit, and I have some clay in the shaft that we put in there so that we can adjust it either way. And so I wanted to pull it out, and I adjusted it a little bit this way. And then I was putting it back together, and I noticed that because I want this to protrude, the cutlass bearing to protrude just a little bit, my hole that I drilled for the access to that little screw is in the wrong place. So I need to fill that in and recut it, unfortunately.
But it would work, right? It was just a little bit in the wrong place.
Well, if I put this where I want it now, then it's a lot in the wrong place.
Ah.
So I'll have to fill that bad boy in. That only takes a sec though.
It's okay to mess up. It just means that you're actually doing something. In this case, I was a little too eager and I drilled my hole before I had everything locked into place. But as Dan says, it's just aluminum, and if you can step across it, you can weld it. So I set up the MIG and filled it in. The important thing is not to sweep your mistakes under the rug, but to take the time to fix them, even if it means a little bit of extra time spent. Because in the end, everything we do is one step closer to setting sail.
So what is that?
And that's just my plate. That is, so once I get this centered, then I'll put, Sikaflex on the inside and on the outside. Then it'll keep the Sikaflex inside, right? Or the chalk fast, I mean.
Okay, so that's another plate for the chalk fast.
Exactly. It's my chalk fast blocking plate. And then I can get it centered and then just glue it on temporarily, right?
Cool.
All right, Steve came by and I showed him a few things, asked him a few questions, and he didn't bring up any red flags. He said that everything was looking pretty good, so I feel comfortable enough to chalk fast the stern tube in place. And he said basically the real critical alignment will come when we do the final fit. So it's really not, this part that is so critical. It's mostly because we have the Sigma drive in here. We just need to get it aligned at the correct height to the shaft, which we can tweak by adjusting the motor mounts up and down, as long as we're pretty close, which we are. We're very close on that. The more critical alignment is between these two, because this is all hard fixed. So we will pay special attention to that, and I'm going to proceed with chalk fasting. That'll be a pretty major milestone for me to get these stern tubes in. And so my next step is to put the dams in place. So I basically have to have something that holds the chalk fast in and just keeps it from leaking out of the tube. So I made these aluminum covers. So it's got a hole that matches up with the GRP tube. and it will go on there. And so what I'll do is I'll just put some adhesive along here, and then I'll put some adhesive along the tube, very similar to how I did with the exhaust tube, because that worked quite well for me. I'll push that together, I'll do it inside, I'll do the same thing on the outside, and yeah, I'll let that dry, and then I can chalk fast. So that's exciting. All right, let's adhesive this. It's time to chalk fast.
You got all your stuff sorted?
Yeah, should be good to go. I've kind of verified, double checked my measurements. I put my dams on there so the chalk fast doesn't leak out, and glued those in. I used my little AI questions to calculate the volume I needed. It said I need 1.28 liters, which sounds about right. There's 1.8 liters in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix 1.5 liters. So I have a little bit of extra, and then I'll save some just in case I mess up. So I'm just gonna pour 300 mil out. I'm excited. I mean, this is a major step, right?
It's a major step.
I'm really glad that I did the rudders. Actually, the rudders are probably the most difficult ones to do, and I did those first. But now I know this material because I've done it a couple of times, so I feel a little bit more relaxed about it, but I think I've done my prep work, so there's our 300 mil that we're gonna save, just in case we need a little bit more of this stuff at some point. So if that's 250 milliliters, I need to put back 207. All I gotta do is pour it in there, mix it up. I've got my pouring bucket, my tubes are already set. No turning back now.
Nervous.
2 minutes. This is by far the more complicated side though, right?
Yeah.
With the diesel and the hybrid system and everything.
That's your hole?
That's it.
You used the bigger pipe this time too, so it gets a little faster?
Yeah.
Really? Nothing.
I mean, it's a lot easier to pour, right?
Yeah.
Hey, let's fill her up again.
You guys might be wondering why we're being kind of like a little bit of a time sensitive here. And it's because this stuff hardens, and the hotter it is and the more concentrated it is in a volume, it's kind of like epoxy, right? Mm-hmm. It hardens faster.
Once it goes off, if there's nowhere for the heat to go, it just builds up more and more heat. And then it goes and goes and goes. Once it's in the boat, the aluminum kind of like brings the heat out of it, right?
Yeah.
But when it's in this container, it has nowhere to go.
The danger is that it would go off too early before it's filled, so we want to kind of work.
Suck.
That's what she said.
Michael, please.
Hopefully we don't have a blowout.
Tiny, tiny drip right there.
You just missed it.
Oh, did it fill up?
It just filled up.
Okay, awesome. Well, it looks really good downstairs, so we're not losing any.
Okay,
really.
good. So it's basically been forced down and then up this tube, right?
Okay.
So eventually these two should equalize. So there's my excess, right? Which actually isn't that much.
Yeah.
I calculated for it called for 1.28 liters and I mixed 1.5 liters. So
Okay.
we should have 200 milliliters left over.
Cool. So what do we do now, Brian?
Now we wait. Now we watch for leaks.
For how long?
I mean, it should kick off and within the hour. Probably quicker in this heat.
And then by tomorrow it should be all.
Yeah, and tomorrow we should be able to see if we did a good job or what.
Cool.
It took the right amount, so I know it's full.
Yeah. Not very much, huh?
No, just a small leak.
Yeah.
So that's that. The propulsion system is in, or half of it anyway. I still need to do the electric only hull, but better to start with the more difficult side. We had a lot of fun making this video and digging into the nitty-gritty details. The amount of design, thought, and planning to put something like this together is simply mind-boggling, and I learned a lot since beginning this process. I hope you learned something as well. And now next time you see a boat moving through the water, you'll know how much went into it.
Yeah, am I gonna be able to get this out of here now? Great.
Oh no.
Yes, you just gotta twist it a little bit. Okay, Sam's pumping up the gym.
What on earth are they doing over there?
Always something around here. So what you get for trying to film in a boatyard. But
Can you show that? Because I didn't understand
let me
anything
see
you
that
said.
this is a 35 millimeter. So I was just putting, I was wondering what happened to my fan. Like, oh, my fan just broke.
It's just me trying to film.
Straight from the crew, out to the blue. We represent the voices of my ancestors. And I was getting worse and my culture is falling. Now we have a step up for the past 20 starting. Once that wasn't enough, ain't nobody gonna stop us. People, everybody, would you listen to us for a start?